Hi, everyone. We are going to start this webinar right on time, and we're happy to see more people joining us. I am Dory Chattel, and I'm Executive Director of the Nonprofit Medical Education Institute. Our sponsor for this webinar is Angelini, Navigating Infection Prevention for the Peritoneal Dialysis Environment. And Medical Education Institute is a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to empower people with chronic disease to manage and improve their health. And we are, of course, huge fans of all forms of home therapy because they help patients to live their best lives. And so we do home dialysis central, and we focus on peritoneal dialysis and home hemodialysis. And our subject matter experts for today, I am very excited because these are some of my favorite people in the entire industry that I've worked in 35 years. So you are in for a treat, y'all. We have Clarica Douglas-Ajayi. I am
Mhm.
pronouncing that last name
Yes, you did. You perfectly. Thank you.
good.
Hi,
Well,
everyone.
and Clarissa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Clarissa Douglas-Ajayi. I am a certified dialysis technician. I have been in many modalities, in-center, acute, home. I'm currently in home teaching home dialysis patients at this current moment. I am the president of NANT, and this I want to say for any technicians that are joining us today, happy Tech Week, everyone. Happy National Dialysis Recognition Week. Yay.
Yay. Well, that's pretty fantastic. We're happy to celebrate that. Michelle, birthday girl, how about you?
Well, hello everyone. I'm Michelle Gilliland. I am a nephrology nurse of over 25 years. And obviously, if you've been in the field that long, you've worn all the hats. So from chronic to acutes to managing home therapy to doing vascular access projects and medical device. I love the adventure and it still continues on. And I'm grateful to be here today. So thank you so much.
We are so happy to have you. And I am lucky enough to work with Jen every day, or at least the days that I work.
I'm
So tell us
Jen.
about you. Yep.
I'm Jen Ravert. I am a program director at MEI. Prior to that, I was a home dialysis training nurse. I worked in mostly home hemo and PD. I also did acutes. I also worked in center, and then I came over here, which is excellent.
Many career paths in
Many
nursing.
new career paths in nursing.
And you were a technician at one point.
You're right. I did. I started off as a technician, and then when I was still in nursing school, and I was working weekends, and then when I passed my boards, I got the promotion. But before that, I was a graduate nurse and I got to work as a graduate nurse too.
Very cool. I am not a nurse. So, our learning objectives for today include what do PD patients need to know about disinfection and infection control at home? So, that's going to be one of our big focuses. Why can diluting sodium hypochlorite be a challenge for PD patients? And what can we do about that? And then, how can PD staff ensure that patients use appropriate disinfecting supplies at home? So that's what we're going to be covering today. And I think I actually want to stop this share because that slide is a little bit later on the list. So Jen, you were going to start us off with a little story about infection control and
I
what
have
can.
a story. I do. So, years ago, when I first started working in PD, I was lucky to have been placed with a nurse who had something like 35 years in. So she saw the entire, and I talk about her all the time, but the nurse who taught me PD saw the whole evolution of dialysis. So like, absolutely nothing shocked her. Like nothing was out of the ordinary. Um, so one thing that she was really big on was finding the root cause of any problem, especially an infection. So we had a patient who came in and had a horrific, truly horrific exit site infection. It grew a lot of things on culture, and it grew strange things on culture. So we had like serratia, and we had enterococcal stuff, and we had E. coli. I mean, there was just a lot of really gross things that grew that should not have grown from an exit site. And this patient ended up losing their catheter because of this. So it was a big deal. So to make a long story short, we were trying to figure out what caused it. And the patient was saying, I do all of my disinfection. So this crazy nurse that I used to work with, she tells me to get in the car. We get in the car and we drive over to the patient's house, and she knocks on the door and she says, I need to look around your house. I need to look at your bathroom. And I mean, she was an older woman on the verge of retirement at this point. She just had no boundaries left.
Wait, was she on the house show by any chance?
She's like that. I mean, she would open people's refrigerators if their phosphorus was high and they couldn't figure out why. And she would be like, it's this. So she got into his shower. I mean, not with the shower on. And she just stood there and turned around. And she looked up at the shower head and she said, well, there's the serratia. And there was like pink bacteria on the shower head. And then she's still standing in the shower. And I felt this is one of the most awkward moments in my career. And I'm in the bathroom and the patient's in the bathroom, and she says, how do you dry yourself off? And he points to his towel, which was on the hook. She's like, I didn't ask with what, I asked how. So he takes the towel and he shows that he, rubs his head and then did one of these and then came right back up front. And she said, hold on a second, do that again. And he demonstrated again. And you could tell by watching that this was just his muscle memory. This is how this man has towel dried himself his whole life. And she stopped him after the second time and she says, do you see what you just did? You just wiped your rear and then immediately transferred everything that you wiped right to your exit site. That's where the other two came from. And that's kind of why I felt like this was a good webinar to have, because that is a PD infection that probably could have been avoided if certain critical parts of infection.
If only she'd followed him into the shower while he was showering.
Right? If only we had done this during training. But it's kind of like I really wanted to talk with others about ways that infections like that, we can think of ways to protect people better, because that was a doozy.
That's good.
That sounds like good.
Yeah, that's good.
It's that easy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, so Michelle, I was going to ask you to just say a little something about PD infection risks and rates and morbidity and mortality. And like basically what we want to cover in the next few minutes is, why is it so important to focus on PD infections? Jen just gave us a really good reason.
Yeah.
What are some others?
And kudos to that nurse for actually going in and doing a really good survey of the home. The nurses that really look in deep and do a deep dive with their patients are worth their weight in gold, right? Peritoneal dialysis gives people independence. It helps preserve their residual kidney function, but it also carries infection risks with it, right? So we're repeatedly accessing that peritoneal cavity through an indwelling catheter, and that can lead to complications. And we still to this day have the same leading complications for peritoneal dialysis. That's peritonitis, exit site infections, and your tunnel infections. So that threatens our catheter longevity, our technique survival, and also our overall outcomes. And so when you look at your ISPD guidelines, which I hope all peritoneal dialysis nurses refer to, because that is our #1 resource for what we do in the peritoneal world. But the 2022 peritonitis update recommends programs that maintain an overall peritonitis rate of less than or equal to 0.40 episodes per patient year. And that is also with an greater than or equal to 80% of your patients remaining peritonitis free each year. So you're looking at one episode every 30 patient months is what they're suggesting. Also, if you look at the ISPD 2023 catheter-related infection update, it parallels with what they say in terms of exit site infection, which is the same. They're targeting less than or equal to 0.40 per patient year, and they emphasize the prophylactic topical antibiotics like mupirocin and gentamicin, and also the retraining aspects, which I'm sure we'll go into some more detail. But infections, we know, drive hospitalizations. They can transfer our patients to hemodialysis, and they can increase their mortality. When you look at the KDOQI highlights, they talk about infection related complications that outweigh adequacy complications in our patient outcomes. So infection is paramount. We need a culture of infection prevention. And then you also look at your CMS conditions of coverage. So 494.30 mandates maintaining a sanitary environment through which infection prevention is in the home setting. And then your ESRD networks, I'm just going to throw them all in there.
I love this.
ESRD
There's a slide for these at the end, so don't worry about writing them down really fast. You could just snap a photo when we get there.
But they extend, resources through their toolkits, and they promote continuous improvement. So you've got 4 great resources just off the bat, just right on our first question here. And we know that infection prevention is a unified part of your culture. So from the surgeon who is inserting the catheter to your acute nurse who is guarding and protecting that catheter during hospitalization, to your PD nurse who's training and auditing the patient's home, and then the patient in the home who's doing their aseptic technique every day.
Excellent. Thank you. Jen, you mentioned shower heads, and I think we are all going to have a very vivid picture of that in our heads now
I think about it every time I
for
take a
the
shower.
rest of our lives.
Yep. Yep. Mine
I'm
is
never
clean.
going to forget that image. I wish I could, but it's too late. What other sorts of environmental considerations should we be thinking about when we train patients to do PD at home?
So towels, that's a big one. Sink areas, any place where there's water, especially like a lot of patients use their kitchen sink as a place to wash their hands. If their food preparation infection control is kind of lacking, let's say they, wash chicken in the sink and then they turned on the faucet, and this is how you can get the same kind of cross contamination going on in a home kitchen as you can get at any restaurant that you don't want to eat at. So I would say that another one that I think gets kind of overlooked is when skin is dry or too wet, either in either direction, and then it breaks down. That's a new way of getting an infection, because then we have a broken skin surface. Sometimes it's adhesive tape, and you have to anchor a catheter. It has to be anchored to prevent trauma to it. But sometimes, if a disinfectant is used and then an adhesive is placed on top before it's dry or something like that, it can cause skin to break down, and that becomes another unique way of getting an infection. And any infection is uncomfortable. I mean, on top of all of the medical, things, we need to treat the infection. We have to culture the infection. We have to have culture to prevent the infection and reconcile it. But from the patient's perspective, a peritonitis is incredibly painful. And so is an exit site infection. It must be terribly uncomfortable to have something like that going on in your abdomen. And on top of all the body issues that I think patients already deal with all the time, it's one more blow that they can just avoid at all, whenever we can.
Okay. And Clarissa, how have you seen provider policies about supplies and equipment and disinfection affect patients? Are there things that could be done better in terms of clinic policies?
Well, first of all, I am a dialysis technician, so I reinforce what the nurses educate. one of the things that we all abide by is the CDC guidelines for disinfection and sterilization. So some of the things you're going to hear us say tonight is EPA, which is EPA is a term, like a term used for how we is a registered federal tool that we use to how we teach them how to disinfect, and the guidelines on how to make sure things are sterilized, and what is clean and what is considered clean and what is disinfect. So we have to teach them how to even the tools and the poles and the clamps. We have to teach them how to properly use those items the way the CDC had designed us to teach them.
Very good. All right. Well, so now we're going to move on to some information because I already read off the objectives. I was going to do that here, but I did it there. So I've already seen them. So I'm going to jump ahead and we're going to talk about patient teaching about environmental disinfection and infection control. And we've already started to cover this, but there's so much more that we can say. So I'm going to ask Clarissa, how do you explain to a patient? And again, you're reiterating what a nurse has taught, but how do you say, because sometimes the words you use make a difference. How do you explain the difference to a patient between disinfecting an area and cleaning it?
Okay, great question. So we understand it. We try to teach the patients to understand that it's clean first, which means remove visible dirt before disinfecting. And disinfecting is using the appropriate contact time according to whatever's manufactured disinfectant that you're using, to make sure that the disinfectant stays on wet for the appropriate time, because this is what's going to disinfect the area. So after this disinfection, we want to make sure that we emphasize not to recontaminate. So if you're using the gloves to clean it, take those gloves off, put another fresh pair on. You also want to make sure that the material, the disinfectant you use is not harsh. So we want to make sure that it's not cracking, and it's not clouding, and it's not degrading the material that they're using, the plastic or the poles, and rusting things. So we want to make sure that we are teaching them how to make sure, like, wipe clean first, and then what's visible, and then disinfect second. So that's how I teach.
All right. So you're teaching them a two-step process that
Yeah.
I think even I could remember that. That would help. Michelle, what can we teach patients about the products used to clean versus the products used to disinfect?
Right. And, Clarissa just did a great job talking about clean versus disinfected, right? And so just to reiterate, cleaning and disinfecting are not the same, right? Cleaning removes the visible soil, and the disinfecting actually destroys the microorganisms. And so the CDC does stress that two-step process that Clarissa had mentioned. So clean first, then disinfect, and then both steps are essential for your PD safety. But in terms of your skin and exit site care, your ISPD guidelines, they'll list certain products that are okay to use. And so I'll talk about those briefly. So 2% chlorhexidine, CHG, or 10% providone iodine can be used, but some patients have sensitivities to those. And so
Iodine stains, doesn't it?
yeah.
So
And you have to let it dry, and it is more irritating to the skin. You're absolutely right. So you really want to pay attention. If your patients have sensitive skin, it's starting to irritate them, they're not going to stick with the solution if it's not working for them. And so there are other products like Accept Plus is a gentle cleanser for the skin and just as effective. So I would, as a PD nurse, make sure that you have a variety of options in your formulary that are approved by ISPD and find what works well for your patient and their routine, their workflow. But again, reiterating following after exit site care, with a topical, agent like mupirocin and gentamicin.
Say
That's
that
part of
3
your
times
ISP.
fast.
Yeah,
Mupirocin, that's a challenging word.
it is. I'm learning to say it tonight.
Oh, it's a tricky one. Jen, what besides the shower, clearly, which none of us will ever forget, having burned it into our brains,
So sorry.
what other place really? I don't even want to get my own shower now.
You're gonna like think about it every time you towel dry off for the rest of your life. You're gonna be
So
like,
true.
I
Thanks,
cannot
Nikki.
cross-contaminate myself. Serious.
Well, also, just in case anybody wondered, it's a really bad idea to wash raw chicken in your sink. Nobody
Some
recommends.
people do strange things.
Yeah, that is not recommended by
No,
any.
no.
So what other places in a home could pose a risk to PD patients if it was neglected?
So let's go through the ones that are definitely neglected. Okay. Cell phones,
Ooh,
tablets.
oh,
Okay. Like I am really good
ouch.
at sanitizing my hands, but I'm gonna call everybody out. Everybody uses their phone at some unsanitary moments. And it is so one of the things we need to teach patients is if you can't sanitize everything, which you can't, you have to use a safe barrier. So for example, if the patient has a walker, okay, the handles on a walker or a cane or a mobility device, those are going to be just as contaminated as a phone, as a tablet, as something you're using in your bathroom. So after, you can't always be sanitizing that. Sometimes a paper towel is a good barrier, as long as your hands are dry. Light switches, especially in bathrooms and kitchen areas. Those are areas that I'm always kind of concerned about. The PD prep surfaces in general. Some patients, when they set their stuff up, they'll spill some dialysate, and then you have a sticky glucose mess on top. And bacteria loves sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Faucets, which is very easily, usually with the paper towel or with an elbow. Also, things that pets touch. And I love pets, but we have to understand that pets don't understand infection control at all. So if we're trying to keep a countertop surface clean because we're using it for dialysis prep, we can't have the cat that was just scratching in the litter box jumping up on that surface, because then we've just brought litter box to medical, and those two should just never mix, kind of like my shower patient and his towel. Towels in general, any kind of cloth kitchen towel, there are studies that talk about exactly how many bacteria grow on those.
Sponges.
Sponges, that's a huge one. Things like that are definitely, and even if your towels are kind of musty, if they're not cleaned and dried, and they're being reused, I mean, all of that skin flora that's on that towel is growing while it's hanging up,
Happily living.
happily living in the towel. So we really
Oh,
have to
goodness.
teach patients to not use those kinds of products on themselves, on their exit sites right after showering. It's just as much of a infection risk as getting into a dirty hot tub. It really is. It's the same stuff.
Yeah.
I now don't want to touch anything at all in my
Sorry.
house. Doorknobs, you didn't mention doorknobs, but I'm sure doorknobs are bad. I'm never touching one again.
Yeah, I noticed someone in
it's
the
a lot.
chat mentioned ice machines.
Oh,
That's a good one.
God.
Ice machines.
Machines, yes.
Those are
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
cleaned
If you've
Yeah.
ever seen the photo of
or
the
disinfected.
inside of an ice
Ice
machine, you
machine.
will never use
Never
an ice
use it.
machine again.
Airplane ice machines too.
Oh,
Mm.
yes, very true. There are things that are just, yes. Okay. Well, Michelle, when we go in patients' homes to survey them, what techniques do you use to sort of raise patients' awareness of these sorts of risks in their homes that they probably are not really used to thinking about in that way?
Absolutely. You know, I consider their home an extension of the dialysis facility in terms of we should be looking at the same infection control practices that we do in center and at home. It just needs to carry through. And, you know, if a patient does end up with an infection or hospitalization or a caregiver change, ISPD does recommend that we do retraining with them. But when I'm going into the home and doing a home audit, there's a lot of things that I'm looking at. And actually I have taken a look in the shower, which I think that's a great thing to do. You want to see everything and you want to figure out what is the safest place for a patient to set up their therapy. And will the patient do their therapy there? What works for them? I'm looking at, you know, surface areas. I'm looking to see if there's drafts, you know, if the air is controlled. Is there setup away from pets? Is it away from kitchen and bathroom issues? I'm looking at their supplies. Do we have pre-mixed supplies? Are they labeled appropriately? Are their medications expired? I'm looking at all of those things. And then I'm also observing their techniques in the home setting. So they've gotten good at training. They can demonstrate in the clinic where everything's right there. But when we set up at home, it's very different. And so I want to see them actually clean their surface and disinfect it. I want to see them do their exit site care. I want to see them connect and disconnect while I'm there in the home setting with them. And then I want to have a look at those other items that our hands touch a lot of, the faucet handles and the cell phones and the counters, the scales. And then I want to see, do they have access to good hand hygiene, like soap,
Right.
towels, hand sanitizer? So those are the things I'm really focused in on when I go into the patient's home.
Do you prefer to see patients using paper towels in for
Yeah, so
PD?
a lot of places prefer that they use disposable paper towels because
I would think.
your cotton towels can harbor bacteria, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and jewelry, you know,
Mm,
we work hard
right.
to scrub their hands and nails, but you know, we also look at, can you pull off your jewelry during your treatments? Because those harbor little
Yeah,
crevices
you
of bacteria.
definitely want to take the rings off.
Fingernails too.
Oh, fingernails.
Yeah,
Fingernail.
no fingernails.
Like
Yeah.
not even the
No
fake, not
polish.
even just the fake ones, but like I always, and I don't mean to sound judge, I always look at people's fingernail beds and I always check to see if their nails are clean.
Well, we were always taught that if you can see your hand, see your nails, there's like probably right now you guys can see my nails. If you can see your nails like this, it's too long.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's too long.
I'm good, but I have rings on.
I took off my rings, so I'm not wearing any rings.
Yeah, and I think good point, Michael. Turning off, you know, air fans,
Yes.
you know, fans that are running in the on the ceiling. Anywhere where there's extra air blowing around, you're blowing dust and germs around. So,
Right.
very good point.
And Michael also says that you can use smart home technology to kind of turn things off by, and
Oh,
I've also
that's a
used it to time
great
hand washing.
idea.
So in PD, I always taught the 3-minute hand wash, and I always had some kind of wiretap device, whether it be Alexa or the S1 that shall not be named, or else everything in my house will think I'm talking to it. But
Remotes.
remote will
We
work.
didn't mention remotes. That
Right.
is such a
Wow.
good point, Mandy.
TV, like, wow,
Remotes are possibly the dirtiest thing in a house.
that's a good one, man.
What about the
Yeah.
tablets they use to enter the data so that
Right.
we can see it?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
those are some of the things like those have to be wiped off too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it
Yes.
adds up. And then if you think about it, you know, you touch one thing and then you've touched all of the things.
All the things, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a lot to remember.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna call on Christy now to bring up our first poll question. We have 4 questions for you. If you've seen this before because you registered and you took this poll, feel free to take it again. That's fine. We don't know who answered before and who didn't. So I was going to ask Michelle to discuss what we've learned from this poll question about disinfecting a PD catheter.
Yeah,
How
so
do you
it
feel about
looks
soap
like,
and water?
so yeah, that's only 8% have talked about or have selected soap and water. Looks like the 77% of you have chose the Alcavis accept route. So accept would be, you know, for exit site care. Alcavis is for like your connectors and other objects other than your skin, right? But you know, catheter, connector, disconnector, whatever you're using, whether it's Alcavis or an EPA approved product, make sure that, like Clarissa had mentioned earlier, you're following the IFU guidelines. And so how long do you need to, what is the contact time, etc. Alcavis, if you're using that, that is a high level disinfectant. So again, that's for your connectors, your caps, your adapters. That does require a 60-second wet contact. So you don't use it on the skin and you avoid prolonged contact with metal surfaces. In terms of manually diluting your bleach, it's not always recommended in the home setting. I know we'll probably touch upon that, but there could be some dilution errors, there could be some corrosion errors, some safety risks if the patient is trying to dilute that themselves. And in terms of alcohol, it's not typically suitable for disinfection. It evaporates very fast and it can damage plastic.
I wondered about that.
Yeah. And when you're looking at your exit site care, I know we mentioned 3 options earlier, but cleansing, you know, from a circular motion from the inside out, and making sure to avoid peroxide, alcohol, or bleach directly on the skin because that can irritate it and delay any healing processes. And I'll just put a plug in there real quick for the Handbook of Peritoneal Dialysis.
I love that book.
Outside of your ISPD guidelines, that is an amazing book and it does follow
Bible.
the ISPD and it has a lot of that great information in it. And I think they're on the 4th edition right now. So that's what I'd have to say about that.
Terrific.
I'm in tune with the folks that chose the Alcavis and Accept. Again, Alcavis is not for your skin. The Accept is. But I'm in tune with that because I've had the best luck with it in practice. Obviously, bleach diluted 1 to 100, that's for surfaces, but not great for screens, for you know the front screens of your devices. And if you over concentrate it, you get it a little too heavy. It's not quite 1 to 100. You're going to damage your equipment. It's going to break down a lot sooner. So, ChloraPrep's another good one. I haven't had any issues with that in the past. Soap and water, absolutely. I usually focus that on the hand washing rather than PD site exit care. But yes, I would lean towards something that's a little stronger for microorganisms, like Accept in my practice.
Okay.
Can I add one other thing to that, Michelle?
Yes.
When we're using the bleach, not only does it corrode and fade, we also forgot about the lungs. You know how it can irritate the lungs and the eyes.
Oh,
So
yeah,
we want to make
that's one we're
sure.
going to hit on
Oh,
again
we're gonna hit on that.
too.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Good.
Yeah, no, that's a really important point. The fumes are
The
toxic.
fumes are toxic.
They can cause lung damage.
Right.
Yeah,
Eye damage.
right? Yes, it can splash.
COPD, asthma. So yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And
it's
of
So we want
course,
to
you
make
don't
sure the
want to
right
put bleach
strength.
on the skin,
Yeah,
right? So we
want to
would
make sure the
never
right
put
strength
bleach.
is used.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about the right strength used in the.
yes, the dilution is critical, which
Yeah.
which is a tricky thing. Bleach dilution is tricky. All right, can we go to the third question? And Clarissa, you look like you know all about this one. Can you talk about this one for us?
So we're talking about durable medical equipment, and basically we want to just remind, I remind patients to use the recommended ready-to-use wipes. Let's just make it easy. Pre-saturated with the right amount of disinfectant per wipe. Nothing to mix, nothing to pour, no spills, no splashes, no wrong dilution. So and once again, we want to make sure is that we clean first, remove the visible soil, then disinfect, making sure the contact time is correct. So if it says 3 to 4 minutes on there, that's what we want to stay wet the whole entire time. So we want to enforce that patients. We want things, people love the microwave. We always say the microwave generation, but we're just the microwave people now, that we want things convenient and quick. So, okay, ready to use wipes is what we're going to use. And we want to make sure that they're easy to grab in the right area, and make sure you don't have like the buckets and the rags. We want to make sure that they're following, my job is to make sure they're following the disinfection routine properly, and to improve compliance. There are many wipes, but we want the hospital grade disinfectant that kills a broad range of pathogens in a few minutes. So we want to make sure that those for the PD patients, that infection prevention is critical in time as they set up.
Okay. And out of curiosity, do you have to use a bleach wipe to wipe off the outside of the bleach wipe containers?
I mean, I've at the end of cleaning a surface, I have done the outside of other surfaces if I had product left.
Given to me, but I never even thought to teach them to.
I did just popped into my head, and I still have shower guy right there. Just not a good place. I really wish you could be, but I'm not having any luck at all getting in my brain. We're going to go on to question number 4. This is our last poll question. Vials and ports. What do you think, Jen? How'd we do?
So we're kind of split. We're up a little bit. We have a little more people saying that they use the Alcavis, and then we have a lot of people saying alcohol as well. And then the chlorhexidine and the betadine, those are rounding out the bottom. And that's about what I would expect. I have a preference here, and it was a policy preference for a long time, because I worked both in home hemo side and on the PD side of things. And what I found very interesting is that my policy and procedure, every place that I have worked, both hemo and PD, had hemo being disinfected. So hemoheparin, that's disinfected with alcohol, but PD heparin, that's disinfected with something higher level, like an Alcavis, and wicked off and done as the bubble method. I kind of developed a personal preference for the Alcavis method. I just think it cleans and stays cleaner longer when you do it that way, especially because patients have a timing. For a nurse, when we scrub a cap and we pull a med, we're usually doing it very quickly. We've done it a million times, but when patients are doing it, we really teach them not to rush, to do things very carefully, very methodically, to avoid contamination. I like having a little bit more time on a disinfected surface for them to do that.
But one of the things that the state surveyor came through and said 70%, because people love that Bath and Body cutie.
Oh, 70% alcohol.
70%, right. Not the Bath and Body.
I remember the lady saying something. I'm like, okay, it's hand sanitizer. Like, who cares? No, 70%.
Okay, that's an important point.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna stop sharing these polls. Y'all did great.
Yay! Congratulations, everyone.
That was fun, right, guys?
All right, so I wanted to show you another slide. This slide that I accidentally sort of showed you before. One of the points that we wanted to make sure that we hit on is that there are risks associated with having patients dilute bleach at home.
Mhm.
So mixing it with ammonia, you
Wow.
probably know that that will get you a toxic green cloud that can kill. So that's definitely something to avoid assiduously. Bleach fumes, even on their own, are very toxic, and I think that they may also be caustic. Bleach fumes? I think so. Bleach spills can damage whatever they fall on. So they can damage fabric, they can obviously bleach it, but they can also corrode metal and even degrade some kinds of plastic. So we have to be careful about that. And then the bleach jugs themselves, they are heavy. I mean, a gallon of anything weighs 8 pounds. We know that. But when you're talking about a lovely little old lady who has arthritic
Right.
fingers or weak arms, and she's trying to hold a heavy jug and it is going glug glug, and the physics of it are changing as it's glugging and it's splashing, that's really something risky that is probably best avoided. And then once bleach is diluted, there is a time limit for how long it can be used. And so that's a little bit of a hassle at home because it may mean that we would be asking people to dilute the bleach every single day. And in case it wasn't already a hassle, it's a bigger hassle the more often you have to do it. And then the dilutions themselves can really be complicated. So getting the correct amount of bleach so that it does what it needs to do is important. So, and feel free to add to that because that is just what I think.
For it, now, if you run out of those wonderful ready-to-use wipes, do you prefer
So yeah,
one
1 to
part,
100 is your typical
1 to
bleach
100? 1 to
dilution.
100
So
is what we teach,
surface,
right?
disinfecting, typical. Okay.
And so after 24 hours, it does lose its effectiveness. So we want to throw it out away and make sure that it doesn't stay on surfaces too long, because if it becomes weak, it won't kill the germs. That if surface becomes weak, it won't kill germs. If it damages the
I,
surfaces, it won't kill germs.
Yeah, and I
I
was going to
would,
mention, not all bleach is the same, right? So you have to make sure your patients get the right type
Right.
of bleach. Not all of them are concentrated the same. And then, of course, you've got your, floral scented bleaches and your
Right.
lemon scented
right.
bleaches.
Lavender
Um,
bleach.
yeah, so that could cause some issues when you're trying to get your patients the right bleach, the right
The
concentration,
thick
etc.
bleach, the thick to pour. You think you're doing something by getting the bleach that's not so thick.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's not good either.
And
I
then
would be
I was
using
going to
those
mention, oh,
wipes.
go ahead, Dory.
No, I just said I'd be
Um,
using wipes. I'm not diluting any bleach.
yeah, wipes seem the safest route for the
That's safe,
patient.
that's route.
But,
Mhm.
just to mention that the Medicare Benefit Policy Manual, Chapter 11, it does talk about how all of the supplies and services that are essential to dialysis, including infection prevention items, are included in the composite payment rate for your patients. So failure to provide any component risks,
Mhm.
non-compliance with your CMS conditions of coverage. And so facilities must furnish all physician ordered dialysis equipment and supplies, and that includes infection control. And so as a PD nurse, I wouldn't have any hesitation in asking for pre-mixed
Yeah.
PD compatible disinfectants, reinforcing infection prevention, um, that's reimbursable and not a luxury for your patients.
Absolutely.
Okay. Sounds good. And I am trying to read. I had a question for Clarissa, and this type is so dark I cannot see it. Can you see it, Clarissa?
I see your bleach patient dilution challenges. Toxic when mixed, toxic bleach fumes,
Oh
toxic.
yeah, no, I mean
Yeah.
on the outline, but that's okay.
No. I
All
don't see.
right.
Oh, we were talking about making supplies easy and
Yeah. Yeah.
how patients can get annoyed around supply delivery. And we were going to talk about that too.
Okay.
Oh yes,
How like
good
the
point.
inconvenience and yeah,
Not getting the supplies you need, not getting the correct order, having things broken or open when they appear in your home, things like that.
So with that, some of the things that I've learned as a home dialysis technician, we want to make sure that they are that we kind of anticipate. We cannot. Many other centers that have space challenges, and so do the patients' homes. So sometimes instead of order monthly, we would tell the patients to order maybe every 2 weeks. It's all about working with the the company. I'm not sure with everyone's company, but one of the ones we use is the next the not next stage, I'm sorry, the Liberty. Well, I work for Fresenius. I'm sorry, I work for Fresenius. So I work with Fresenius supply, and if it's something that the patient don't have, I usually have it in the clinic. Come run past, come get it. And that's always been I'll go to, and something easy fix. So we've never had a problem. I know this is something that we're not supposed to do, but we ran into a situation. We didn't want the patient to go back in center. So the patient was homeless. We didn't want her to go back in center. So I ordered some of the supplies for her, and then she was able to come and get things as she needed. We just want to keep them independent and surviving on this program and encourage. So we always just try to find solutions. There's never anything right. I don't think anybody from Fresenius knew that I did that for her. So please don't tell on you. It's recorded, isn't it?
Everybody will know.
It's recorded. But yeah, one of my patients, and until she found her home, we were able to make sure the supplies, and
That's
no
awesome.
one knew the difference. No one knew the difference. So sometimes you just have to anticipate
That's
some
such a
things for our
That's what closets are for.
Bro, exactly. We are going to open this up for questions, and I was not looking at the chat because I was looking at all of the other things. Hello, everybody who said hello.
Hi,
And
everyone.
Hi,
let's see,
everyone.
is there any difference in infection rates between titanium and plastic connectors used in PD
yeah.
catheters?
Mhm.
That's a good question.
Do you want it, Michelle? Do you want me to take it?
I actually prefer titanium.
I do too.
I have seen
Mhm.
less infections with titanium
Mhm.
connectors.
Yep.
And I started requesting it from our surgeons,
Yeah.
the two
Yes.
surgeons that I was working with in Omaha, and I saw, great results. They are heavier, right? And you have to secure them well and take good care of them, but I think they're fabulous. So
I
that's
also
my
prefer
opinion.
them. Yep. I think that there are things there are recommendations out there. I think either are fine, but I think most people have seen that titanium is generally less infection prone. My only thing is about the catheter taping. That's always important. It's especially important when you have something as hard like titanium against that soft plastic. It just makes that anchoring that much more important. You want to avoid getting a kink or a hole in the plastic, and definitely ask the surgeon to do that at the time of the placement, because it is so much riskier to be doing that in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one person's wondering if are there any studies to support
Clinical
that
data.
titanium has less infection than plastic? And we would have to look that up, I suspect.
Yeah.
I can definitely do, some research, look up on that. I do remember reading something to that nature, but I would definitely want to find the article and information for you.
It would
Yes.
make a good article if it is not already an article. And I will tell you that when I do the Home Dialysis Central e-newsletter, I do a lit search every single month. I've done this for something like 20 years. And I just use the search term dialysis, and I've never seen that come up. So that may be a great topic for a nursing article.
It was always something
Wait,
that we just.
Michelle Casson has posted something.
Thank you, Michelle.
Is that an article?
Yes.
Thank
There it
you.
I was
is.
just looking it up.
That's terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. All
The
right, now I'm
It
going to
was
go.
something we always used that we found. It wasn't nothing from a study, but thank you for putting that in the chat.
Yeah, that's
Really great.
terrific.
Yeah.
All right, so there is some proof, and we are happy to have it.
Good.
So, Christina and Michael asked, what is your opinion on skin prep? We've had some clinics all for it and some not use it at all.
So I think the
Yeah,
problem,
go ahead.
if it's prescribed, if
Are
it's
those
needed,
are those the wipes that keep adhesive from bothering skin? Is that skin prep? 'Cause that's, I have skin prep wipes for KT tape, but I don't know if that's the same thing.
yes.
It is the same thing. Okay. So if it works for you and it doesn't irritate your skin, it's a pretty miraculous way to react less to adhesive if adhesive is something that is irritating for your skin. And I can assure you that KT tape worn for 5 days, because that's how long KT tape will stay on, is very, very irritating without skin prep, and just fine with it. But
Yes.
some people react to skin prep itself. So for them,
So
unfortunately,
my thing is get it. Yeah. If you're one of those people, that would probably support having an order. And then
right.
if there's an order for it, then it should be covered.
Yeah. Yeah. I just buy it on Amazon, but
I do recall, I've used it on some patients and not on others. It really depends.
Yep.
So, yeah.
people just vary in their sensitivity to adhesive. And I think, Jen, you had also said that sensitivity to adhesive may change depending on whether skin is moist or too dry. So that's
Yeah.
another thing besides infection risk, irritability to adhesives. And boy, that's miserable. Nobody
Yeah.
wants that.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And you never, sometimes someone will think that it's an adhesive problem, but it could just be an interaction problem between adhesive and another disinfectant product, or the drying time. Things like that can interplay with each other in very interesting ways. So if skin prep works,
Skin prep, I am a big fan of it, but it works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. I've got just a couple of slides left to sort of wrap us up, and let me find them. Let's see, not that one. We have some resources. These are the ones that Michelle listed off earlier, and they are wonderful. And feel free to take a screenshot of this slide so that you can find them later. And I will give you 15 seconds to do that, or you could take a picture with your phone. That would only take 1 second. But either way, I think hopefully most of you already know about many, if not all of these, but they are in fact
Wanted to
useful.
mention, so ESRD, they use what's called SHEP, SHEP, and that stands for sharing highly effective practices. And so I think
Nice.
that it really pertains to infection control or infection prevention across our clinical cross-functional team and into our patients' homes. So the more we share with each other, the better we become.
Thank you. Very
absolutely.
true. And also, happy
Yay!
birthday.
Happy birthday,
Oh,
Michelle.
how'd you know I love cats?
Well, I know you have a
Birthday,
cat, so I figured
Michelle.
hopefully you like
Happy
them.
birthday,
Jen
Michelle.
Enjoy
found these
being
pictures,
16 again,
except for the
Michelle.
balloons.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Anyway,
being 16 again, our 80s baby.
Exactly.
I don't know if you've ever
Well,
had a birthday party on a webinar before, but hey.
Hey.
Thank you.
well, you deserve one, and we like to celebrate you. So I'm going to unshare there, and I'm going to thank all of our guests
Yes,
for
thank you guys.
being wonderful and sharing your wisdom and your stories, some of which are horrifying, and I will never get them out of my head. And I know who to blame. And I'll be sending itching powder in the mail.
Thanks,
I
Jen.
won't really be sending. I don't even know where to buy itching powder, but now you'll be thinking about that. So I want to thank
Thinking about
all
me
of
when
our
towel drying.
wonderful SMEs. I would also like to thank everyone who came and attended and asked questions and answered the polls and participated. You were terrific. I would like to thank Angelini for sponsoring this webinar and giving us a chance to discuss this important topic.
Thank you guys.
And I hope that everybody has a fabulous night. And I wish everyone well.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yes,
Enjoy.
I would do it
Enjoy,
again.
everyone.